We're working on Chapter 10 this evening. Last week we started working on it. We had a few issues with Visual Studio here in the classroom. So I've already lectured on the beginning portions of this chapter, and I assume that you guys have read the book. If you really want a video overview of the introductory material, look at the pre-recorded videos that came before this one. Otherwise, I'm basically jumping right into the exercise. All right, so they want us to open up our website, so do your typical file and folder management. I have a copy of my website ready to go. I have a backup copy off to the side. So when I come into Visual Studio here and I open up the website, I'm just going to choose my typical site folder and open it. And you can see I have a bunch of stuff open here already, but let's jump over to the instructions and see what they would like us to do. It says, open the Planet Rocks website in Visual Studio. Check. In the Demos folder, create a new web form called UpdatePanel ASPX. And I think last time we did get to this point where we created that, so I'm looking for my Demos folder and seeing the fact that I have the Update panel. Now, because we are starting here from this exercise, and I kind of did this last week, I'm actually going to remove the Update panel and redo the steps. So this is a step that you do not have to do. All right, so we're going to right-click the Demos folder, and we're going to choose Add, New Item, and we're going to add a web form. But we're building it on top of what? Our base page. So what should I do? So I click, right. We're going to pull it up from the base page directly, and that way the structure that we had already created is just going to pull right in. So it's kind of like pulling in a template. So let's go ahead and do that. Update panel is the name they want us to give it, using camel case. ASPX is your file extension. And go ahead and click Add. They want us to jump over to Design View. So let's do that. And in Design View, they want us to start pulling in a couple of components. So they want us to pull in a label control and a button control from the toolbox, and they want it to go into the CP main content area. I'm going to be a little preemptive, and inside this box here, you can see where my cursor is flashing. I'm going to bump the cursor to the beginning of the line by hitting the Home key, and then I'm just going to press Enter once just to create a little space and move that copyright symbol out of the way. And then I'm going to pull the controls into this spot. So let's start by pulling over a label, and then followed by pulling a button over. And then I'm going to drop the button right after the label. Not very pretty so far, but all right. They want us to use the properties grid at this point to clear the text property of the label. So make sure the label is selected. I'm just clicking right on it. And then in the properties grid, find the text property, and then get rid of label. And just do that. And it's kind of interesting in Design View. It did say label in plain text, but now that disappeared, and it just changed it. It put like little square brackets there so you can kind of see that it's still the same thing, because otherwise it would functionally disappear. So that's why it switches like that. All right, then they're saying double-click the read-only area of the page. So that's anything that's outside this purple box. So go ahead and do that. And that, of course, creates automatically the page load method in the code behind. They have a little snippet of text here they want us to copy in, which I'm grabbing right now from the second screen. And as we mentioned last time, this is like one of those little scripts we learned kind of way at the beginning of the book, little sample script. And all it's going to do is basically take the time and drop it into the text portion of the label. That's all it's going to do. Pretty simplistic. They want us to test this, so go ahead and hit your Save All. And then I'm going to make sure I'm using Chrome. And then I'm going to run it. Run without debugging. And you get a glorious error. Did you guys get an error too? Okay. I'm going to pause the video and we'll figure out why, and we'll come back and give you the fix. Yeah, are you guys saying we're going into panic mode a little too quickly? Because I didn't follow the instructions? What does it say? Yeah, it requires the title. And what didn't I do? Read the instructions in their entirety. So let's go back over. And I'm going to go to the source code view of the page we created. And indeed, it is empty. And what do they want us to call this? Anybody remember? Update panel demo. All right, now let's save it and let's try that again. And voila, magic. And sure enough, we do have the date and the time in there and the button. But the point isn't what that is. The point is that when we hit this button, the button forces a callback. That means it forces a send to the server and is expecting a response. And when I hit it, I don't know if you're noticing that, but watch the tab and watch the page contents flicker. Did you see the flicker? Watch the refresh. Watch some of the menu items. It's trying to refresh. That's exactly correct. Yeah, that's actually a good point. So Sabrina was just mentioning that if you scroll down and then hit it, then you realize that it's refreshing. That's actually a great tip. Now, the whole point of why we're working in this chapter is to learn about the technology called AJAX. The point of AJAX, of course, is that it is asynchronous JavaScript. So it allows us to communicate with the server, replace contents on the page without reloading the page. And that would create what we call the flicker-free effect. Now, at this point, they want us to close that down and go back over to Visual Studio. And I'm on step 7 now on page 353. They want us to go to Markup View. I'm very conveniently there already. And it says make some room before the label control. So here's the label control. And I'm not sure if they want it inside the paragraph. Oh, no, I created the paragraph when I hit that Enter key, remember? So I'm going to do that inside the paragraph. Make some room inside there. And then type UpdatePanel and press Tab. And you notice that Visual Studio's got this like intelligent tool built in. As soon as you type that, it like brings in the component. It's pretty cool. It's kind of a slick little thing. All right, so it adds the update panel and more importantly adds the content template that we're going to be using. It just drops it in automatically. All right, so in step 8 it says next cut both the closing and opening, both the closing content template and update panel tags and paste them below the button you've created in step 3. So what they're saying is, see where my cursor is flashing right now? I'm going to grab it and grab those two closing components cut them, and then paste them below these two items here. And then I'm going to highlight these and just tab them over just to kind of clean it up a little bit. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the label and the button to be inside the update panel. Now, in terms of the structure of the site, kind of the point of the update panel on an ASP page is basically that we're kind of designating a region where the content is going to change with the AJAX. That's what we're doing. All right, so step 9 says right before the opening tag of the update panel, that would be up here, drag a script manager from the AJAX extensions category of the toolbox. So if you scroll down in your toolbox, hit AJAX extensions, and then you will find that script manager right here. And they want us to drop it in right before the update panel. Now, looking at their code here, I'm noticing that they're going right from the content placeholder right to the script manager, and I'm noticing in my code I got paragraph tags here, which I am now going to remove. Because I do want to match up what they're doing. All right. Next it says save your changes and request the page in the browser again. So let's do a Control-S. So now they're saying that if you scroll and click the button, and this is pretty slick because now can you tell that the page is not flickering? And also you're noticing that the time changes every time I hit the button? It's pretty slick, right? Yeah, it's not refreshing, but that script inside that panel is communicating with the server. It's getting the new time. It's pushing it back to the browser, and it doesn't have to redraw all this stuff on the screen. Now, we don't have a lot of stuff on the screen that really consumes a lot of data. I mean, we have a couple of images, a couple little things going on, but really nothing of any heavy weight. But if you had a page that had, 1,000 lines of CSS or a couple JavaScript files linked in and like 20 images, and you just want to update the time, and you have to reload all that stuff again, right? So you see the inefficiency there. So that's what we've just created here is a very simple, primitive form of an AJAX interchange of information. So it's a very powerful thing, without a doubt. Now I'm looking at the book here, moving on. There's a lot of different attributes that you can add and properties which are explained here. But my main goal this evening is to get us through the exercises. So I'm moving right straight away to the next try it out exercise. All right, so I'm going to pull this back off screen here and jump back into Visual Studio. So our instruction next is to open up the contact ASCX form that's in the controls directory. So in the controls folder, contact form, I apologize, contact form, not. All right. Open that up, and then it wants us to put an update panel wrapped around the table on the page. So you see we do have this table, and I'm just going to zoom out so we can kind of see the entirety of it. Maybe that's a little too far. You can do this a few different ways, and if you guys read the book, they give you, I'm looking at their instructions, it says you can do this by typing directly into the markup view, or cut and paste in my case. Of course, I'm getting my low battery alert here. I can't believe. My approach now that I have power for my laptop, is I'm going to just copy and paste the code in. So I'm going to take this little bit of code, and it's going to be dropped in right here, right where the table begins. I'm going to create a couple lines and just paste in. Oops, I didn't copy all that great. Let me try that again. So I'm adding in this part here, and then at the very bottom, underneath the closing table tag, find it all the way at the bottom here. Yeah, we want to go, that's right, under the label also, we'll put the closing components. All right, so it says go ahead and save your changes if you've made those. And then we're going to jump over to our front-end master page. So let's find that file. There's our front-end master. All right, it says between the opening form tag and the div tag for the page wrapper. So here's the opening form tag and the page wrapper. So in between there, we're going to add the script manager. And you remember the different ways to do the script manager. There's a number of them, but I'm just going to copy paste the code in myself. Once again, save your changes. They tell me to go ahead and close the page, but I'm leaving it open. I'm being a little rebellious. Okay, it says next, open the UpdatePanel page. And it says remove the script manager from this page. So I'm going to remove this item from here. Well, yeah, it seems like a waste of time because wait, I'm just undoing what I just did. You're right. In a sense, it kind of is. But what they're trying to show you is all the different ways to do it. And you have to look at that when you're working in this book. The author kind of makes a conscious effort to kind of show you the different ways. And you'll find one that works for you. And sometimes I'm good and I demonstrate all of them, and sometimes I just forget. But yeah, it is kind of a waste of time because we just put this in to save us some time. But now we're moving it to the master page so we don't have to do it, right? So it'll appear everywhere. All right. Okay, step number 5. It says open the Contact ASPX page in the browser. So give it a right click and view in browser. So let's bring that up. Fill in the form. And see, I'm making sure I pass validation here. Now, it says here, note that as soon as you click the send button, the form disappears, right? And it's replaced by the label saying that the message is sent. That's what the instructions say. But did you notice that we're not reloading the page? That's pretty slick. That's a little bit more of an advanced effect there. If you want to try that again, you can just go back to the contact page, type in a bunch of stuff. Keep your eye, maybe we'll do the scroll trick again. So I scroll down, I'm hitting send. Now, the neat thing about an effect like this, folks, and I want you to ponder this. Next time you go to your Google, your Gmail or your Yahoo Mail, and you're working on stuff, try to pay attention to see when the screen is refreshing and when it's not. Because more often than not, they try to keep certain things from reloading to save that bandwidth and increase the performance.
So where does this go to? Because you don't, is it going to a database or is it going to
Right now, we have it configured so that it sends email, if you did it correctly, or it writes the email to a file.
That just emails address instead, so you don't have people using it for spam.
Well, that's actually totally beyond the scope of what we're doing right now. The point of what we're doing, when we built this form, the point of building the form was to learn all the validation tools, and then we connected it to send mail or write a file, and now we're learning about doing flicker-free responses. So the form sends, it goes away, the follow-up message is put on the screen, and we're not refreshing the page in the process. That's the point here.